It was morning. The kitchen was quiet, silent. Wine was preparing breakfast. She woke up early in the morning just to make it. After finishing everything, Wine heard footsteps coming from the stair. She turned and saw Jungkook coming down, his expression utterly emotionless, unreadable, unreachable to everyone. He came downstairs and passed by the kitchen, head towards the door to leave the house. That was when Wine called him softly. Jungkook. Jungkook stopped appropriately, with cold, emotionless eyes. He turned around and raised his brow. Wine immediately lowered her gaze and said softly, I made breakfast, have it? Jungkook's expression didn't change. In a deep, cold voice he spoke. Who told you to make breakfast today? Wine looked down slowly. Her heartbeat started racing. Whenever Jungkook spoke in that deep voice, her heart began to pound uncontrollably. His cold eyes sent a shiver down her spine. Her fingers tightened at her side. No one, she replied quietly. I just thought I had time today so. But Jungkook immediately cut her off in a sharp, cold voice. Listen, you don't have to act innocent in front of me. I already know all of this. Wan looked up at him instantly, her eyes filling with tears. Jungkook spoke again. His voice was as cold. My mom was innocent. That's why she got trapped by you. But don't think of me as her, because I know all the tricks, everything. Wan stayed silent. Her nails dug painfully into her palms, but she didn't say a word. If you want something, just tell me directly. You don't have to do all of this. His eyes dropped to the dishes she had prepared so carefully. Then he looked back at her. And I don't have time to eat breakfast, he said flatly. Go to university and don't do this again. After saying that, he left without another glance, leaving Wine standing there. Her tears finally fell. Every time he spoke such harsh words to her, her heart shuddered all over again. You both not been married for long. It'd been almost 2 weeks. It was Jungkook's mother's, Mrs. Jeon's last wish before her. She wanted the two of them to get married. Wine was an orphan. Her parents, when she was only 8 years old. Mrs. Jeon had been her mother's best friend since college. After Wine lost her parents, Mrs. Jeon took care of her, took responsibility for her studies, her needs, everything. She loved Wine very much, and that was the reason she wanted Jungkook to marry her. On the other hand, Jungkook couldn't deny his mother's. How could he, when it was her last wish? But Jungkook didn't want to get married, not now, and didn't want to marry Wine. He had already talked to Wine about this matter. He already cleared how he didn't want to get married now, how he didn't want to marry her. He asked her to deny this marriage, to say no to his mother. And Wine did try. She went to Mrs. June to deny it. But Mrs. June already knew something. She knew where Wine was living. The landlord was selling the house and continuously telling Wine to move out. Even though Wine never told her about this, Mrs. June already knew. She also knew that Wine had nowhere to go after leaving that house. So before her, she took care of everything. She made Wine promise that she would marry Jungkook and that she wouldn't deny it. Wine couldn't say anything. Mrs. June had already done so much for her, and it was her last wish, so Wine couldn't say no to this marriage. And from that day, Jungkook hated her. He thought that Wine had married him only because of his wealth, that she was just after his money, nothing else. After a long moment, Wine let out a sigh, her eyes filling with tears. From childhood, She never expected much from life. But like everyone else, she also had a dream, a happy family, a loving husband, a fairy tale life. But that dream too shuddered, just like everything else in her life. She looked at the breakfast she had prepared. She had already lost her appetite. Slowly she turned away and went to her room to get ready for university. One sat quietly in her classroom. The room was filled with noise, students laughing, talking and teasing one another. But she was seated on the last bench, completely detached from the all. Her head was lowered as she focused on her notebook. She was busy with her own world. None of it mattered to her. Just then the door opened and a peon came inside. June won. Wine immediately looked up and stood from her seat. All the students' eyes fell on her. "You have been called from accounts department," the peon added. One frowned slightly, confused, but she slowly nodded her head. The peon left the room. After a while Wine entered the accounts room and said softly, "Ma'am, did you call me?" The accounts officer looked up at her. "Yes, June Wine." Wine slowly nodded her head. Turning to her laptop, the officer said, "You haven't paid this month's tuition fees." Wine's heart began to race. She already knew about this and she had been working part-time to manage her fees, but she hadn't received her salary yet. It was already the middle of the month, and she couldn't even bring herself to ask her manager for an advance. Biting her lower lip, she spoke slowly. I know, ma'am," she mumbled, her voice small. I will submit it soon." The accounts officer looked at her again. "You already know that this month is also about to end." Why didn't look up? The officer continued. "I was thinking of calling your guardian regarding this matter, but I decided to inform you first." One shook her head immediately, panic rising in her chest. "There is no need, ma'am," she said urgently. "I will pay it, please. Just give me some time." Her voice was desperate, almost pleading. The accounts officer sighed. "You only have 1 week. By the end of this month, you have to pay your fees. And if you don't, then there is nothing I can do. Please try to understand." One nodded slowly, swallowing the lump of in her throat. "Yes, ma'am, thank you." Saying that, she quietly turned and walked out of the room. It was evening, almost 6 o'clock. Wine was at the restaurant where she worked part-time. "Take order number 6, now." The manager's voice cut through the din of the restaurant. Strict, sharp, cold. One shallowed, immediately obeyed, grabbed the plates, and went to serve the customers. She was exhausted. After a full long day at university, it was really hard for her to manage this job. But she was still managing, as always. Then another voice burst through her thoughts. The manager again, colder this time. "Wine, give this order to that table. Hurry." Wine nodded quietly, taking that next tray. But as she moved, her foot caught the edge of the chair. She stumbled. Plate crashed to the floor, shattering instantly. A sharp gaze escaped her lips. Her heart skipped. The manager came running, his face hard and furious. "What did you do? Is it how you work?" Tears pickled one's eyes. I'm sorry. I tripped. She tried to explain, voice trembling. I don't want to hear excuses. The manager cut her off sharply. Clean it up, and you are doing overtime today. Wyan's eyes widened. I can't. It's already late. I have to go home. I don't care what you want, the manager snapped. If you want this job, you have to do overtime. You have already caused a loss. Now go and clean it. One looked down, knowing there is no point in arguing. She wanted this job badly. She couldn't lose it. She had to pay her tuition fees. Slowly she nodded. The manager sneered and left, muttering, useless. One kneeled down, her hands trembling, as she began cleaning the mess she had made. It was now almost 8 when Jungkook came home. As he entered the living room, a maid passed by. He stopped her, his voice low, sharp, and cold. Wait. The maid froze, then approached, lowering her head. Yes, sir. Do you need anything? Jungkook looked at her coldly. Did Wyan had her dinner? The maid hesitated, frowning, then shook her head. Ma'am hasn't come home yet, sir. Jungkook frowned. Still not? His voice deep, unyielding. No, sir, she replied quietly. Leave. The maid bowed and left immediately. Jungkook stayed standing there, looking at the clock. His jaw tightened. What can I expect from her? He muttered to himself. His voice was sharp, almost emotionless. Obviously hanging out with her friends, going out, shopping, living the luxurious life she wants. His voice was harsh, cold, and empty. After one last glance at the clock, he turned and walked to his room. Now it was almost 10 o'clock when Wayne finally came home. After opening the door, the room was quiet, almost silent. No one was there. No one was waiting for her, at least. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the living room and noticed all the maids had already left for home. Jungkook had also returned by now. A thought across her mind. Should I go to Jungkook and ask about my tuition fees? She had already asked her manager for her salary, but he had strictly refused, insisting he couldn't give it to her at this time. Biting her lower lip, Wine debated within herself. She thought, should I ask Jungkook to pay my tuition fees just for this month? I will manage it myself for next month. Should I really ask him? Her mind battled with itself. Taking a deep breath, slowly she started walking towards his bedroom. Now she was standing outside Jungkook's door. She hesitated for a moment. Then, taking a deep breath, she knocked softly. No reply. She knocked again, but still nothing. Unsure, she paused, debating whether she should leave or not. Gathering courage, she slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was empty. She frowned, confused. Then she noticed a figure on the balcony. Stepping a little closer, she saw Jungkook standing there, talking on the phone. Wang quietly stood there, listening. Jungkook's voice deep and commanding. What do you mean the file isn't prepared yet? Did I pay you for all of this? His deep voice rang out sharply. Wang stayed frozen, listening. His deep, commanding tone sent shiver run down her spine. I don't want to hear any more excuses, understand? I want that file in my cabin by tomorrow, and if you can't, then prepare to leave the job. He hung up the call appropriately and muttered to himself, all the problematic people always come to my life. His voice deep and cold. One's heart began to pound. She no longer had the courage to say anything to him. She couldn't burden him with her problems. Not now. Silently, almost like a shadow, she turned and left the room, careful not to make a sound. After walking into her bedroom, Wine immediately lay down on the bed. Her eyes were watery, her mind a completely mess. She couldn't think straight anymore. Her thought kept circling around one thing. How could she manage everything? How could she manage her tuition fees? No matter how hard she tried, nothing felt clear. She closed her eyes from exertion, from tiredness, from stress. After a moment, she opened them again, and tears spilled down both sides of her face. She slowly mumbled to herself, Mom, Dad, why did you leave me alone? Why did you leave me like this? She sighed again, her lips trembling as she whispered, didn't I deserve a little happiness in my life? Don't I deserve anything at all? Her voice was almost inaudible, only she could hear it. After a moment, she spoke again, her voice weak but determination. Tomorrow I have to talk to the accounts again. I know she won't agree, but I still have to try. I don't have any other option left. I can't be a burden in Jungkook's life anymore. With a soft sigh, she closed her eyes once more. Exertion finally took over, and before she even realized it, sleep claimed her. On the other side of the hallway, Jungkook heard the faint sound of one's door opening and then closing. He opened his bedroom door and walked towards her room, stopping just outside it. He stood there quietly. He had been waiting for her to return. Even though he didn't want to admit it, he still cared. Cared about whether she came home safely or not. Even if he refused to believe it himself, after looking at her door one last time, he turned away and went back to his room to sleep. Jungkook entered the restaurant with long, confident stride, his tall frame commanding attention the moment he stepped inside. His secretary worked beside him, clipboard in hand, matching his pace. Jungkook's face was cold, completely emotionless, his sharp eyes scanning the place with quiet authority. As he approached the reserved table, Mr. Lee immediately stood up, a nervous smile on his face. It's really nice to meet you, Mr. June. Thank you so much for coming. Jungkook gave a brief nod. Nice to meet you too, he replied in a deep, calm voice. Please have a seat. Jungkook sat down across from Mr. Lee, his secretary taking the seat beside him. Just then the restaurant manager rushed over, bowing slightly. Mr. June, it's truly an honor to have you in our restaurant. What do you like to have? The manager personally took the order from Jungkook's table. Now Jungkook leaned back slightly in his chair as Mr. Lee began explaining the business proposal. Jungkook listened in silence, his sharp gaze focused and cold. His expression didn't change even once. Mr. Lee felt a chill run down his spine under that piercing stare, yet he forced himself to continue talking. explaining every detail carefully. On the other side, the manager said to Wan, he said sharply, take this order to table number 2 and serve it carefully. Wan nodded immediately. And don't make any mistake, he added coldly. That customer is very important. I won't tolerate anything going wrong. Remember that. Her finger tightened around the tray. Nervousness crept into her chest, but she nodded again and carefully lifted the tray, walking towards the table. When she reached it, her head stayed lowered. She focused only on the plate. Her hands trembling slightly as she served each item quietly, making sure everything was perfect. Just then, Jungkook's eyes fell on her. His gaze froze. His expression changed instantly. Wine was serving the order, her hands trembling slightly. Jungkook frowned. His gaze still froze on her, shock flashing across his face as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Wine continued serving quietly. After finishing, she softly said, here you go, sir. She lifted her head. The moment her eyes met Jungkook's, her heart dropped. Her heartbeat raced wildly. Her entire body started to trembling even more. Panic flowed. She never wanted Jungkook to see this. She never planned to let him know about her part-time job. Not like this. Fear filled her eyes. Jungkook slowly stood up from his seat, the chair scraping softly against the floor. His gaze never left her face, sharp pacing stern. His own chest tightened painfully as he stared at her. Shock, disbelief, and something else he couldn't understand. For the first time in a long while, Jeon Jungkook felt something break inside him, and he didn't even know what it was yet.